Hello, everybody. This is Taz Street with Positive Out Loud. Today, I have a very cool guest on the show. I have Joe Atalig, and the reason I brought him on is because I love his energy. I love reading the things that he posts, and I love his videos. I love everything about him because he's purely authentic, purely about love. And I just wanted to welcome you to the show, Joe. Thanks for coming on.
Well, gosh, thank you so much, Taz, for the invitation and having some time to connect and talk about my favorite thing, which is absolutely love. So thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Can you
Yeah.
tell the viewers a little bit about what you created?
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So after a very tumultuous time in my life, it brought me to kind of a fork in the road of leaving corporate America or doing something else. And so I
So
decided.
what were you doing in corporate America? Let's
Yeah, I was
start
in
there.
I was in financial services for over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And my last stint was I was a senior learning and development manager. But my last team, I managed master trainers and executive coaches within the company, as well as developing leadership and coaching programs for a Fortune 500 company. But my roles, they varied from being in a district manager, a region type manager within a retail division, within a banking system, and the like. So that's what I did in my professional life.
Wow, it sounds like
Yeah.
you have a lot of experience and help in leading people. That's awesome.
Yes, it was actually, I think one of the things that I enjoyed most is really developing, recognizing, and bringing out the best in others, and really seeing their greatness before maybe they even realized it. I just got a
Hmm.
charge when the light bulb went on and they realized that they were amazing just the way they were
Hmm.
and full acceptance of who they were. And I love to really just develop folks in their mindsets and have them lead themselves before they let others. And so, yeah, it was a big part of why I enjoyed what I did.
And were there some challenges, some bumps in the road that made you decide to leave that type of work?
Yeah, I went through some health issues along the way, and it's really cool to see how my personal journey. I talk about having, you know, your pain become your purpose, and your message, right? And those things that we think are really holding us back, but really they're preparing us, for something absolutely amazing. And so throughout my life, I was, you know, um, I was always driven by being validated by others. And it started, of course, in childhood. And I always wanted to be liked and loved. And so, in hindsight, what I did was create this false self where I could survive in the world, so that I could fit in. And in that journey, what I did was neglect those things that traumatized me as a kid. And as you and I both know, when those aren't addressed, even in adulthood, then those things are attached to your body and they become dis-ease. And it showed up in my body in the form of diabetes.
Hmm.
And so, early on when I was diagnosed, I remember the nurse going through some education, and she said, Joe, like, diabetes is the silent killer. Sometimes you don't see or feel any symptoms, and before you know it, it catches up to your organs and those types of things. So, Tad, what happened is in, I would say, a 5-year period, those started to really manifest in my body. The stress of the job, keeping up performance and high levels of achievement, etc. And so I had some issues with my eye, and I endured 8 eye surgeries that left me blind
Oh,
in my
wow.
in my left eye.
Hmm.
And then shortly after that happened, 4 to 5 months later, I learned that I was in kidney failure. I was in stage 5
Mm.
chronic kidney disease. And mind you, I was in my corporate job where I traveled almost weekly from coast to coast.
Hmm.
And I remember telling my nephrologist, like, I don't have time for dialysis.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, I was still in that mindset. I gotta
You were
go,
like
go,
focused,
go.
right? Yeah.
Right, I gotta go, go, go. And I said, well, can I take a pill? Can I,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I know. Yep. And it was one of those wake-up calls where I didn't hear the alarm,
Okay. So what
And
happened?
so,
Did you stop or did you
well, what
really start
happened is
paying
that
attention?
I had to go on dialysis. So I opted for a home modality that allowed me to hook up to a machine. So they surgically put a catheter in my abdomen, and that helped to cleanse my blood
Mhm.
overnight while I slept. So 8 to 10 hours a day,
Mm.
and are pretty rigorous, um, rituals every single day of cleanliness and making sure that there are no germs or bacteria. It was just,
Wow.
and I did that for 1,245 days. So 3.5 years on dialysis. I traveled with the machine. It was awful, but
Wow.
it took a wear and tear on my body. The
How
great
long ago? How long ago was this?
That was started in 2014, and
Okay.
then I finally got a transplant in 2017.
Wow.
And
So
yeah,
when people say they get a transplant from another, human being, how
yeah.
you have different? Do you have like some people say they have these memories that come up or anything like that? Do you have any? Because
I
of
haven't
energy and
really,
that.
I really haven't noticed that. That's interesting that you
Okay.
bring that up. Here's the interesting thing, Taz, is that during that 3.5 year period, there were 10 beautiful beings who actually stepped up and said, "I want to donate my kidney."
Wow.
And
Ooh, that gives me goosebumps.
yeah, when they don't work out for whatever reason, it's disappointing. But after 10 of them, I was like, it must be me. I'm doing something wrong. Now, the mind, as you know, plays a lot of beautiful tricks on us, right? And I started
Mhm.
to believe that. And so I actually took a leave of absence to really just hone in and just take a breath. And and that was in 2017. And um, I took 6 months off, and 2 days before I was to go back to work, I got a call from the Mayo Clinic here in Phoenix, and they said, "We have a kidney. Can you be here in an hour?" I was like,
Oh,
"Oh my
what?
god!" So, of course, the ideal situation would be a living donor, but this was a deceased donor.
Mhm.
And what I understand about the gentleman is that he died in a car accident, and you
Mm.
know he was a organ donor. And so,
So that's why it's important to be an organ donor out there,
yeah,
everybody.
oh my gosh, it's just, yeah, absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
And so when I came out of surgery, um, I just decided, you know what, let's just have a heart attack. And that's what happened. I had a heart attack out of
Oh no.
surgery. So
Oh wow.
typically a 2 to 3 hour stint in the hospital turned into a month, almost a month, a little bit under a month.
Mhm.
And so in the recovery process, et cetera, I went back to work, 60 days later. And when I showed up,
Wait a minute. So you had a kidney transplant, then you
yeah,
had a heart attack, and then 60 days later you went back to work. Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah. And when
Whew.
I came back to work, my boss was on vacation. And so my boss's boss welcomed me back, but, gave me some unfortunate news and said, during the time you were gone, your position was eliminated, and you've been displaced. And so, like, okay, the
Mhm.
idea of when it rains, it pours. And
Mhm.
so I went on a
But what was
short.
the opportunity in that? I know there has to be opportunity in
Oh, absolutely,
that. Right, right.
absolutely. And so after the initial, ooh, what am I going to do?
Mhm.
Of course, being connected to source and knowing that none of this is a mistake, I just began to make a decision that I wanted. I did get a severance package for a year. So it allowed me to really just focus and dive in more into my own growth and evolving. And so I decided to do that. And,
And where did you start with that? What?
well, I've been doing personal growth work for years, 10,
Oh,
12
great.
years.
Okay.
But what I said recently on a show that I do is that, we can watch every YouTube video and go to, phenomenal experiences. But unless we actually do them, we just know about them.
Yeah.
And I think, though I sprinkled in along the way the work that I was learning, I was really good at internalizing it and teaching it to others because I was a coach the majority of my professional career.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I was in ministry when I was a part of religion. And so I was always helping, coaching, encouraging, exhorting, helping people see what they couldn't see, uncovering the rocks, the blind spots that they had. So that was natural for me. So it took the focus off of me and, allowed me to help others. And I thought that was making me fulfilled. But in a sense, I was hiding.
Mm.
And so, as I began once again to actually do the work, I really started to look at some really painful things in my life. And sometimes it's hard to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And really just see the truth.
Yeah.
Right? The masks that I wore, the personas that I embodied, the false self that I continued to perpetrate, to be sure that I fit in and I was okay. And then as I start to dismantle that, I start to see the truth of it all, both the ugly truth and the beautiful truth,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I began to say, I don't even know who I am. And so I began this idea of I kept on hearing, just be your true self, be your true self. And I'm like,
Yeah, everybody hears
what
that all the time,
the
right?
fuck is a true self, And so in that quest, I think
Mm-hmm.
I knew always, but I thought, well, maybe there's something that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And, in that process, I began to, employ coaches that I highly respected and, began to, be involved with, leaders in the transformational world and in the conscious communities and, really start to get centered spiritually. So all those things working together just really began to like build these windows that I looked into it and peered into of, my life, not to, stay and regurgitate the past, but look at it from a lens of learning and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And, with that, it was tough. And on top of that, I was going through some tough times and I ended my 25-year marriage during that year.
Mm.
So, we
Yeah.
couple all those things together, right? It makes for the perfect recipe for some deep inspection,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And, taking the searchlight within the heart and excavating,
Right.
bringing it all up. And so I just remember that what I knew was that 90 to 95% of the decisions that I make on a daily basis, I don't make. My subconscious makes those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which you and I
Mm-hmm.
both know are our programs and our conditionings and all those types of things.
Yeah.
So my revelation of my true self came when I was with my youngest daughter, who at that time was 14. And I picked her up from school, Taz, and we went to have a sandwich. And we had a conversation. She was talking about something with school or a teacher. And I don't even recall the exact conversation, but I remember my response to her. And it was, Bella, all I know is I would want to be my true self.
Mm-hmm.
And just like kids, out of the mouth of babes, she was like, well, Dad, what's your true self? I'm like, right. And, so I'm driving in the car and I'm waiting to get onto the main road. Right. And I looked at her and I said, when Dad was born, I was given a name. I was given a religion. Right. My name was Joseph. I was a religion. They told me I was going to be Catholic. Right. This is your culture. You're a Pacific
Yeah.
Islander. Right.
I was Catholic too. Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand.
You're a Pacific Islander, and these how Islanders are, It's like, start to embody this identity per se.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but when you pull all those things back, here is what I find, that I have been made in the image and the likeness of Source.
Yeah.
And I call God. And what I know is that God is love. Therefore, I am love. And it's right then and there, Chaz, I was like, oh, it's like, that is my true self.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
And it may seem super simple, but for me, it was profound. And I had this moment where I'm sitting there in the car and she's like, Dad, people are honking the horn. You got to get onto the main road. And so that began this exploration into embodying that. And what does this idea of unconditional love look like? What is
Mm-hmm.
it? What does it even mean? Right. And how do we foster that in the world? So I was a part of a group mastermind in 2018 with Kyle Cease and his organization and his group. And we would meet every day, every weekday for 6 months, and it was during that time that I declared that I was going to have an event, and I was going to call it the Love Wave, because it was an election year, and there were like midterm elections happening,
Mm-hmm.
and all we kept hearing was, there's a red wave coming and there's a blue wave coming, and I said, something, we're going to start a love wave.
Yeah.
So that's where the term came from, and it stuck
Mm-hmm.
with people. They're like, I really like that, and I'm an islander, waves, and all meant, And so what I wanted to create was,
So I think next time you get together with people, you got to have them in a circle holding hands in the ocean, right?
oh
That's a
yeah,
love wave.
I love that. And actually, one of my coaches does that, and I think Kit Volcano. I worked with him,
Oh, yes.
personally. So I think he does that in one of his events.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an event in May of 2019, and the idea was to create kind of a TED Talks for transformation,
Mm-hmm.
and was to give every speaker 18 minutes, because that's what TEDx does, right?
Mm-hmm.
To deliver their message. And what started to unfold was 13 speakers who talked about their own experience of love in their own lane. So the talks were like, love your failures, love your, love your body, right? Love your, I said failures, love your source. So they
Mm-hmm.
were just beautiful, messages that were very diverse, and all the speakers were diverse. And then Kyle offered to speak, and he was our keynote speaker at the very end. And it was just a very nice way to kick off this love wave. And what has developed since then is this desire to build, a movement of sorts, I guess you could say. And honestly, Taz, I'm starting to see, as things unfold, I don't necessarily have all the answers to it all, but
Mm-hmm.
here's what's developed since then is this very deep desire to have the idea of unity through diversity, not uniformity. I think we're seeing that in the world today. There's so many differing and polarizing views, and everybody wants to be heard and understand me, and all
Mm-hmm.
these things. But my vision is that, just like you said, people in a circle holding hands and looking in this circle and seeing obvious differences from even our naked eye, and appreciating the differences,
Mm-hmm.
but valuing the commonalities, which if I were to speak to every single person, I would almost guarantee it's love.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is the vision of Love Wave. And it starts within our hearts. And then the ripples of compassion, acceptance, and love for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
which gives us, the window of opportunity to look out what I call the lens of love. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea of what does unconditional mean? So I've been exploring the idea that when people hear love, many times it's the anemic, sentimental type of love, hearts and flowers, and which is beautiful because it does touch the heart.
Yeah.
In addition to that, especially what I'm seeing today, is the type of love that has grit and teeth, and like a bulldog holds on, right? And
Mm-hmm.
stands for justice, right? Stands for humanity.
Yeah.
That type of love that says that I have an unconditional commitment to the welfare of another.
Right.
Right.
And that's happening full force right now. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, so in this second event, which I'm looking to, once we start to see the impact of, what's happening right now with the coronavirus,
Mm-hmm.
the gentleman who's holding my space, this event was going to be in San Diego, and
Oh.
I get a year to have the event, and I wouldn't lose my deposit. So we'll see what happens. But the difference between the first and the second TAS is that what I know and learning, and in my corporate career, is that people learn either visually or auditorially or kinesthetically or a combination of them all.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I wanted to do is to ensure that there's experiential learning, right? And so the idea behind a love wave is that the purpose is to teach, to impart, and to demonstrate the undeniable possibilities in life when we look through the lens of love. And so those elements of teaching, imparting, and demonstrating would be present within, the 2-day event.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a speaker, they would come and they would impart their knowledge and their experiences, but there would be something that the participants would then do, some type of activity.
Yeah,
And they would be all
exactly.
right?
Right.
That cements the learning.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all coming together so beautifully, but we just hit the pause button and we'll see what transpires after that.
Yeah, I see a lot of companies, organizations now having to really um, like shift their focus and do a lot of things online, which is not, it's still great, but it's not the same of being there in person, one-on-one
Yeah,
with people with that energy and that momentum, and people are there for a reason, for a purpose.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, there's a lot of things that are shifting right now. So,
Yeah.
and I know with you, you have that passion. I mean, the one thing that we need more than anything right now is to teach unconditional love,
Yeah.
um, because so many people in their lives, they don't even feel that for themselves. So how are they going to transform and reach and change those
Yeah.
around them, right? So what are the things that you've done for yourself to love yourself more?
There's this, I built a model. I also do personal growth coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And the model is like a 3-legged stool. And in my own journey, in addition to my corporate background, my brain operates many times out of a model. So this is kind of the center of the work that's going to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And in this 3-legged stool, when one of the legs of the stool is wobbly, it could potentially now, if you're sitting on that stool, you're going to crash.
Okay.
So the 3 legs are awareness, acceptance, and action.
Mm-hmm.
So because that was my own evolution, the first thing I did was decide to take off the mask. And, the second thing was to face the truth. And the third thing was to open up to love. So those align with the 3-legged stool. And so
That's so
with that,
simple, so
it is
simple,
simple. Yeah,
but when people are entrenched in what's going on outside of them, they totally forget about, hey, what's really going on with me? What
absolutely.
is going on in my body, in my soul?
Yeah.
And and they have all these emotions, and then they lash out, and next thing you know, they're kind of lost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would say that it's in the simplicity of it that is complex.
Yeah, that's really complex. I've been working on that for many
Right?
years. So yes.
Yeah, me as well, right? And continue to.
Hmm.
And so there's so much great information out there, but what I experienced was I would go and listen and glean from leaders and what we, maybe find as gurus and these beautiful orators and teachers, and it got to this point where it was somewhat medicine, kind of a temporary, some people call it mental masturbation, where you think you're doing the work because you're hearing someone tell you what to do, and you're like, oh my God, that resonates with me. Yes, yes, yes.
Hmm.
But the third part of that is action,
Hmm.
right? And so I would be great at taking it in
Okay.
and, and then giving out to others, but not necessarily applying to self. So to answer your question, I think one of the biggest things, and I started to do this again, was mirror work. Mirror work.
Okay.
It's one of the most powerful, for me, has been a powerful practice, to really take a look at myself, both in the natural and in the supernatural. And
Hmm.
so that's been transformative. Ho'oponopono has been, a big part of also that daily healing prayer. Once again, so simple yet so profound.
And what is that prayer again?
Um,
I've seen it here and there,
yeah,
but I don't know it offhand.
yeah. The Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian prayer, and there's 4 elements of it, and
Hmm.
it is I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you, and it's the Dr.
Wouldn't that be amazing if people did that in the protest? Said that.
Mm.
right?
Wow.
All those people
What a great
choosing that.
idea. I'm sorry. I'm looking for a piece of paper to write that
It just
down.
came to me. I'm like, wow, that would be, I mean,
Yeah.
both sides, not just one side, but both sides. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That is awesome. Well, the funny thing is that if you do, when I did research on Ho'oponopono, Dr. Hugh Lin is his name. In Hawaii, there was this mental ward. I believe it was in a hospital,
Hmm.
but he was asked to come in to treat the patients. He never went to see any of the patients. He just said the prayer for them. Every single one of them were healed. And that ward didn't exist after that, all through that power of that prayer. And so, it's just, I have friends who it's a part of their daily ritual.
Hmm.
And for me, I think once again, the simplicity of it's just, it's the feeling, right? Of when you say, forgive me,
So are you,
sorry.
are you thinking of somebody when you say this, or how does that?
Yes, there's
Okay.
times, yes. And many times, yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
it's either a situation, a person, even myself through it,
Hmm.
right? And praying for someone in that,
Okay.
so kind of in the gap for them, right?
Hmm.
Taking up that gap and praying. So yeah, it's just a very, very powerful modality.
Mm.
And of course, I subscribed to a lot of Abraham Hicks work.
Oh, Abrahamics.
Um,
Love, love,
yeah,
love. Yeah.
Brene Brown,
Hmm.
um, Michael Bernard Beckwith. I
Hmm.
mean, and then I took a year-long course twice a week with the incomparable Dr. Shafali Sabari. And she is known as the conscious parent.
Oh,
She
I
does
love
autism.
her. You are like on
Yeah,
the same wavelength. That's why we're here together. This is
yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah. So it was amazing. She had
Hmm.
a year-long program called the Year of the Awakened Heart, and it
Oh,
was 52 weeks with her twice a week,
wow.
and it was
I wish I
live.
would have known that.
Yeah, it was amazing. And
Uh-huh.
I believe that was my jumping off point of really doing the work versus
Right.
thinking I was doing
Okay.
it.
Okay.
And
So did that, I'm sure that transformed yourself as a parent, right?
oh my gosh, you just don't know
So
how
tell
it
me, tell
does.
me what things have changed from before to after as a parent. I mean, what things did you get from that?
I think the realization that um, I don't own my kids. They came through my wife and I, but they are their own selves.
Hmm.
And I noticed as I was going through the program, my oldest, I was I wanted her to live out my unfulfilled dreams.
Mm.
You
Wow.
know,
Hmm.
and so
Yeah, I feel that.
no, because I saw in her what I think I had in me, but I just didn't see it. And so, one of those things was volleyball. As an Islander, it's a sport that we're known for, both beach volleyball and court volleyball.
Hmm.
So I started her early in a non-competitive league, and she got into a competitive league, and we worked her up to a travel team,
Oh,
and
wow. Hmm.
and then all along I'm learning now this conscious parenting thing and empowering my kids to that they have a voice, and I'm gonna connect with them, etc. So the concept was great. And I remember going to practice with her, and on the court after a practice, she told me, Dad, I don't think I want to do volleyball anymore. And I was like, what? Like it was just like, I mean, it was almost my livelihood to go to, practice, to go to her tournaments and and she enjoyed it, but she just said she was done.
Mm.
And then so I bring out the long list of things. What? I paid for this and da 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 da. And then she said right then and there, Chaz, she goes, Dad, am I doing this for me or am I doing this for you?
Wow.
And that's
Wise,
why I was
wise
like,
daughter.
wow. And then I noticed the whole parenting paradigm come into play. I'm like, who do you think you're talking to? Right? I'm your dad, and da 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 da. Get in
Right,
the
right,
car. And I was like, wow,
right.
this idea that our children are our mirrors and really there to help raise us from our own unhealed wounds
Oh, absolutely. I get
really,
that.
really
Yeah.
woke me up. So, since that time, I took her program in 2017. And since then, I haven't strayed from the revelation of my role in it really is not to run their lives, is to help guide, to have conversation, help them
Mhm.
see themselves. If I
Yeah.
see them going on a course that could be dangerous, I question, I share my
Mhm.
experience, and
Okay.
ultimately, if it's something that I think that will be harmful, I'll make a decision. But
Okay. Right.
I'm allowing them to experience life for themselves. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's incredible. I'm definitely gonna have to check that out.
yeah.
And I think I actually have her book somewhere here. Sometimes I buy books and they just sit they just sit on the bookshelf collecting dust.
Yeah. Right.
And because I'm all excited, oh, I want to read about this, and then I get distracted or whatever, and then eventually I get to it. But that's definitely one I want to get to pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. So, oh, they're great books. Yeah. So there's one, The Awakened Family and The Conscious Parent. Those are her
The
two.
Conscious Parent, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the one that I purchased. So
And it's not just for parents. It
no.
really talks about anyone who's a parent or has had a parent. Because she does delve into the inner child and, the dynamic of the inner child with your adult self. And so it helps you really see, yourself and your inner, and yeah, in your inner child, how the inner child many times runs us. And so it was the most valuable program that I think I've ever been through.
So when you're talking about the inner child, um, in the program, do they give you tools and things to look at to help you get through whatever those fears you have going on or whatever those issues you have going on from the past, or how does that work?
Yeah, in this particular program, it was more lecture style.
Okay.
You could, interact through questions and things of that nature. But there wasn't any specific activities and
Okay.
or tools that were given. She does have on her website many resources that people
Okay.
could glean from,
Hmm.
but nothing specific as it relates to that type of work.
Right.
Yeah. And, what I discovered after that, Taz, is, there's so many healing modalities out there for the inner child, one being, EFT, so
Hmm.
emotional freedom technique. So I found an amazing practitioner and started doing work with her. And
Who's
I
that?
was,
Is that Gwen? Yeah,
yes,
I love Gwen.
yes, it is
Gwen's a
Gwen.
shout out to you right now.
Gwen Orweiler, if anyone's listening,
She's
and
amazing at
she's
EFT.
absolutely
Incredible.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so I think her platform is living your strongest life or your strongest life. And
Hmm.
that was kind of, I call it um, like the express lane to healing. It's like we had like a couple sessions and I was like, wow,
So
this
did some things come up for you that you didn't even realize was going on?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I mean, she was able just through the process of it all. And then of course, hitting all the pressure points, a
Hmm.
combination of that, really started to surface some of the core root things that was hard to look at,
Hmm.
so as
And
those come up,
that's where all the distractions come from. Because
totally.
when those things start popping up, and it's good that they start popping up, and you start feeling uncomfortable and you start feeling anxious and frustrated or whatever, because that means you're about to have a breakthrough, right? If you
Absolutely.
pay attention.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And so I think that was one of the key um, parts of my healing.
Mhm.
And yeah, I would highly recommend anyone to do EFT. Tapping is so powerful.
Yeah,
So,
it
so
is.
powerful. Have you tapped with her?
I have a couple times,
Oh,
and I'm like,
okay.
wow, Gwen,
Yeah.
where did that come from? And thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome. How cool. I'll have to
yeah.
tell her
She
that.
lives in the same city, we're probably about an hour and a half away from each other. So
Really?
we met in person. She's amazing. Yeah.
How
We
neat.
went and saw Kyle Cease when he came to Seattle.
Okay.
I think it was last year. Yeah.
For his
Last
book
year.
signing? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It was a
cool.
great event.
That's awesome. How wonderful.
So, so you went through all those issues. So where are you now in the process of loving yourself and creating such a beautiful, I mean, how do you feel about everything that you've been through and where you are now and what you're creating now for your life?
Yeah, I would say that 2020 has been a bitch.
For everybody, yes,
Right.
yes.
And, it's touted as the, 2020, clear vision, perfect vision,
Mm-hmm.
and it was cloudy as hell. And, but I think it was on the 29th of December, a friend asked, do you have a word for 2020? I said, yeah, I haven't thought about that. And the first word that came to me was trust.
Mm.
And it was more about trusting my inner being versus all of the outside voices and all of these people that I held in high esteem and respected. And I tended to want to duplicate what others have done versus taking what resonated with me and sift it, right? And then allow myself to bring my own flavor to the table, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah,
Right.
that makes total sense. Yeah.
So as I started to see the communities that I am kind of parrot what everybody else is doing, I was like, you know what? It's just, it's not, I'm not feeling it, And so that whole idea of trust was important. So I started to, not push away, but in terms of my one-on-one coaching, I wasn't taking on a lot of new clients. I had secured a contract with a local company doing some of the leadership work that I did in corporate. But
Mm-hmm.
what I found was with my personal growth work, I started to incorporate that into the curriculum and the content, and because a lot of people who don't have the language and experience that you and I have,
Mm-hmm.
but they're seeking in their own way. And
Yeah.
so, if I talk about, evolving consciousness, etc., people will have an association with that. They'll go, "Oh boy, you're one of the woo woos," or blah
Yeah.
blah, whatever association they have with it. And I believe that what I'm able to do is really capsulize it and crystallize it, so I meet people where they are,
Right.
right? And it's in that idea of trust that they're now open, right? And so I experienced that in creating this leadership program for this company that I was working with.
Mm-hmm.
And so come to 2020, I had an opportunity to renew a contract, which would really take care of me financially for the rest of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, because of Corona, it fell through.
Mm.
And so it started this ripple effect of things, and I in my daily practice of just connecting to source and just surrendering parts of life, I also, was involved in a new relationship that, really brought things that I thought that I dealt with to the surface.
Yeah.
And so coupled with everything that was happening in the world, I really started to feel heavy, some
Mm-hmm.
real heaviness. So I went through a dark time recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that was in design, right, for my healing. So now things are starting to shift in terms of what I want to do. I still am. I just started a live stream show
Okay.
with a platform called Spirituality Gone Wild, and
Spirituality gone wild. I love
yeah, yeah.
that.
And so the show is on Saturdays at
Okay.
8 a.m. Pacific time,
Okay.
and it's called An Unconditional Life. And my desire is to bring, thought leaders and people who have made change, whether it be in the community or in their lives or in their health, and what I call also divine nobodies, people who aren't so interested in the prominence, part of the equation, but more the significance. So they have seen in their lives transformation, right? And then all being
Like
girded,
everyday people.
yeah,
I love that. Yeah.
you know, and people who are grounded and
Hmm.
really rooted in love.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I have 3 or 4 people lined up for the upcoming shows, and they're all diverse, which I love.
Hmm.
You know, from every aspect, whether it be, you know, race or culture, you know, perspectives. I really want to foster that so that we can get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations potentially,
Hmm.
right? With the idea that being with someone to understand and to listen and not
Hmm.
necessarily correct or defend. Two types of different listening.
Right.
So I want to foster that within this show. So that is one thing. And then also what's come up big for in 2020 is the idea of leading yourself. It's my own story. It's in the trust that I have it already inside of me. Do
Hmm.
I have guides? Do I have coaches? Do I have mentors or people I respect? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that they drive my life,
Hmm.
right? I have to trust what's happening inside of me. So and because of my learning background, training background, I wanted to create a signature program called Know Yourself to Lead Yourself to an Unconditional.
Wow. Wow.
And, you know, what would happen if we did, you know, trust that small witness inside of us,
Hmm.
right? We call it intuition, we call it spirit, we call it source, whatever. Even if it doesn't make sense to anybody else, right? What
Hmm.
would happen if, right? We practice that. And so I wanted to foster that. And typically people struggle because they don't know who they are. They have an identity of who they think they are,
Yeah.
right? And so it is really finding the core of who they are, their most truest and authentic self.
Hmm.
Outside of labels, outside of title, outside of status, outside of all those things. And to me, that is the beginning of this rediscovery of who they were when they were born. Because Taz, you and I both know when we were born, that was the moment we began to unlearn who we really are. Because the world got a hold of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We go
So
through this world being taught certain beliefs, certain cultures, you know, as we know, what's going on in the world today, it's not looking very pretty
no.
because we think that our belief and who we are is the right thing instead of embracing everybody for who they are. And so much diversity in the world, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
So to teach people to get to know who they really are
Mm-hmm.
is very much needed right now. And so I want to thank you for doing that and creating that
Yeah.
and following following what comes up for you from inside of you and bringing it out to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the links below to everything that you're creating so people can follow you and they can come to your lives, which I definitely want to check out now.
Yeah.
Is that going to be
Absolutely.
live on Facebook or?
Yeah. So here, what I'm doing actually is, you know, the event in person was called Love Wave Live.
Right.
And so I actually spoke with a friend who did her own version of something. And it would be called Love Wave Online. And so it'd be, you know, a multiple day, you know, type event. But I still would like to capture the idea of experiential learning.
Okay.
So I'm toying around with that. So those are some of the projects that I have, like, you know, existing and kind of the plate spinning in the air, per se, right? That are currently going on with me. So
And when it all comes together, you're going to be like, ah, this is so amazing.
absolutely,
Because the
absolutely,
source knows exactly what we all need and
yeah,
it comes through us and we get to share it, right?
no doubt, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, no doubt.
So any last words you want to leave here for everybody to know and to I mean if they're just starting out on this journey, what would you recommend?
If you're starting out with this journey, I would say that to practice stillness.
Hmm.
You know, one of the biggest breakthroughs comes, in my opinion, is when we are still and the mind is quiet
Mhm.
And we're able to train our brain through observing the thoughts as they come and they go, and to find in that this connection and this feeling to your source. And you can call it what you want to, right? I think that's the foundation, in my opinion, to, you know, the evolution and the return home to your own heart. And know that life is not linear. That is an illusion.
Mhm.
And that it is a beautiful road right through. And it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, right? And really
It's
what
pretty
happens,
messy. It's pretty
it's pretty
messy.
messy. And that's a part of the plan.
Mhm.
And the cool thing is that once you have a connection to your source, then provision is there, right? Security is there, even though it may not seem like it. And every person along the way is designed to help and be a mirror to your own discovery of who you really are,
Mhm.
right? Be courageous and stay the course, and trust. I would say trust along the way.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah,
amazing. Thank you
yeah.
so much for
My
being here.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And
Yeah.
I feel your heart. I know
Mhm.
this is something that that you just must tell everybody because it's a beautiful message.
Thank you.
And everybody, again, the links are going to be below to connect with Joe and to connect with him online, and hopefully soon in person. So,
Absolutely.
all right, Joe, take
Thank
care.
you again, Tess. Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
all
Bye-bye.
right, bye.